Hello, we are hitting cancer below the belt. Welcome to our Fight Right podcast, where we help you create a bodily environment where cancer is challenged to survive. Today, we are talking about a very serious issue. We're talking about early onset of colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is not an old man's disease. And unfortunately, diagnosis is rising in the younger population, the younger community under the age of 50, unfortunately. They are being diagnosed with colorectal cancer, both men and women. And unfortunately, they are not surviving because they're being diagnosed at the later stages. So I have two extremely important guests here with me today. First of all, we have Tressa Breindel. She's the founder of InHealth RVA. It's a Richmond's premier functional medicine and wellness clinic right here in Richmond, Virginia. Tressa is a 28-year Crohn's disease thriver. This woman is amazing. She runs marathons and she has she's an ileostomate. It's hard for me to say that, but she's going to explain what all of this means. So we're very happy to have her with us. She's a business owner, as I said, a marathon runner, an athlete, and she is a dog mom. We also have John Galloway, and I met John about 2 or 3 years ago. He is wonderful. He's a lead singer in the band What's on Tap. And he's a stage 3 colorectal cancer survivor. He's just an all-around great guy. So thank you, John. Thank you, Tressa, for being with me today. I really appreciate it.
Great to be here.
Awesome. Hey, you know what, John? Let's go ahead and start with you. Can you share a little bit about your experience with colorectal cancer?
Yeah, sure. So I was diagnosed when I was 42 years old. Very, very surprised. And Tressa had IBD, she had Crohn's, I had ulcerative colitis. So I was diagnosed with UC when I was 16 years old. So I had it for 24 years. And even though I was at a higher risk for colorectal cancer, I was still super surprised to hear the words, "Hey, you have cancer." And when I heard those words, it's, oh my gosh, what are next steps? And so I tried to do as much research as possible. When you learn and when you hear the words cancer, you don't know what stage, because it's not staged until after it goes to pathology, after your tumor goes to pathology, and then they stage it. But it ended up being stage 3, and I went through radiation. I went through surgery. I had a total colectomy, so that means my entire colon was removed. And at that time, I had an ileostomy. So I had a bag which served as my holding tank, served as my colon there for a while. And then I got it staged, and then it ended up being stage 3 cancer. So that means it got into my lymph nodes. And when that happens, you have to go through chemotherapy. So I ended up going through 6 months of chemotherapy as well. After that, went through chemotherapy, and people ask, which one was the toughest? Was it radiation? Was it surgery? Or was it the chemotherapy? And they all kind of sucked, to be honest. They were all tough. But, you get through, and with good support, with a positive attitude, and I can't key as much as on support. You just have to have a good support system and understand and read up and be your own advocate and all that good stuff. And you'll come out, you'll come out good on the other side. But then after I went through chemo, I ended up getting a reversal of my ileostomy. So now I have they formed what's called a J pouch, and that pouch serves as my new colon. They formed that J pouch out of my small intestine. So now I go to the bathroom just like everybody else. But the way I explain is my holding tank, I guess, if you will, is a little smaller than everyone else because I don't have a colon. So that just means I need to watch the things that I eat. I need to probably eat a little less than I should at times, and eat a little more often during the day. And it's been, knock on wood, 3 years cancer-free as of now.
Wonderful. We're talking about the colon, which is the large intestine. I don't think a lot of people even know that. When we're out in the public and doing education in regards to colorectal cancer prevention, we always want to make sure we emphasize that the colon is the large intestine. So you first have the small intestine, and then you have the large intestine, and then you have the rectum and the anus. And so to give people more of a visual, we're talking about the gut, the colon, the large intestine. So what you're saying is all that was removed, and they were able to make a J pouch for you, so you can still eliminate. You can eat and you can eliminate.
That's right. Yep.
Extremely important. Okay, and then can you talk a little bit more about the ulcerated colitis? How old were you when you were diagnosed with that?
Yeah, so I was 16 years old when I was diagnosed with UC, and I just some of the symptoms. Obviously, basically what that is it is in the large intestine. It's inflammation of the large intestine, and some of the symptoms are obviously inflammation, severe pain in your intestine. You have bloody stools at times, diarrhea at times, and you try and there's no cure other than they say the cure is to take your colon out, but you can manage it through medication. So I was on medication since I was 16 years old to manage it.
Were you told that you were at a higher risk for colorectal cancer due to that inflammatory bowel disease?
Yeah, they mentioned it. My gastroenterologist, he mentioned it. He talked about it. I would have regular colonoscopies, which was key to them finding out that I had cancer.
Right.
But I would have those annually just to see if there was any dysplasia, any weird looking things, any polyps or anything like that in the colon. And if there were, they would remove those polyps, they would test them. And then, that one time they went in and they identified a tumor in there, a 5-centimeter tumor. And that's how I found out. And I was feeling, Mindy, I was feeling fine. I really was feeling okay. I thought I was feeling good. The only symptom that I had was a flattening of the stool. So now with UC, I had some blood every once in a while, but I had a flattening of the stool. When you flattening the stool, what does that mean? Normally you would have a round, a circular stool, but if you have a tumor, a cyst, or anything like that, that stool needs to work around somehow in the colon, and the only way for it to come out is to flatten. And I didn't realize that. I didn't know. I didn't think anything of it until after the fact when I found out I was diagnosed.
And that's what we're finding, is that when we're talking with folks, that folks aren't understanding that flattening of the stool or thinning stools is a potential issue that they need to be speaking to the doctor about. So I want to get back to symptoms again, and the fact that you didn't have any that you were aware of. First, I want to introduce Tressa. So Tressa, my friend, you're living with an ostomy. You're running marathons. Let's rewind a little bit and go back and share a little bit of your history.
Yeah, actually, hearing you talk, John, is pretty cool. A lot of stuff is coming back. So yeah, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 14. And then in my late teens and early 20s, I was on meds. It became uncontrollable. And I was very, very, very sick on every single medication you could be on. And I remember because I was in the hospital and I had just been put on TPN, total parenteral nutrition, where they basically lace some hoses up to your heart to be able to pump food in because I couldn't take anything orally. And I remember I was in the hospital and there was a VH1 special on Cher, and she had married one of the Doobie Brothers, I think it was, who died of colon cancer. And I was in there, and I mean, it seems serendipitous that I saw that special, because I was, I've always been into trying to figure out the underlying causes of things. So I was like, I want to figure out the underlying cause of my inflammatory bowel disease. And I wasn't prepared to let go of my colon yet. And I saw that special and I was like, oh my gosh, I could fight for the next 20 years to keep my colon, and same thing, John, like just end up with colon cancer. And I was just like, that's it, I'm done. The next day I told my doctor, I was like, that's it, whip it out. Let's cut it out. And then there was, it's not that easy, but so then I had a temporary ileostomy for about 9 weeks. And then I had the reversal to a J pouch. And then anyway, there's some back and forth diagnosis. It looked like Crohn's, it looked like ulcerative colitis. And then I spent still the rest of my 20s really pretty sick.
Wow.
And then through going back to school in medicine, in research and in Chinese medicine, I got my inflammatory bowel disease pretty dialed in. So that by the time I was about 30, I was pretty much asymptomatic from an inflammatory bowel disease perspective. But all the years of inflammation inflammation and being sick had created a lot of scar tissue. And so what was left of the little rectal stump that they make at the end of your, that your J pouch is stapled to. So what they do with the J pouch is you have the end of your small intestine, it's a tube, and they take that tube and they cut the tube open and splay it open and then fold it back on itself and create a pouch. And then they take that pouch and they staple that to just the muscular stump of your rectum. They cut off most of your rectum and scrape the tissues out of the inside of your rectum. The top two layers are the ones that are involved with ulcerative colitis. And so you have that, like you said, John, it's like not much storage, but enough to get by. So yeah, by the time I was in my early 30s, I was getting bowel obstructions. And, you know, I've been so used to living with, I'm sure you the same way, you're just so used to living with problems that you kind of like, I don't know, a normal person would have been like, this is a problem. Someone with bowel disease, you're just like, whatever. So it turns out I was having major bowel obstructions. And then that's why I needed an ileostomy. And as we were talking before, ostomy just means a bag, any kind of bag. So if that bag is connected to the colon, if you still have part of your colon left, that's a colostomy. If it's connected to your ileum, which is the end of your small intestine, that's called an ileostomy. And then there's also urostomies, people who have bladder cancer or for some other reason need an external bag that their ureter will dump urine into. So ostomy is the bag, and then there's the organ that it's attached to. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Is really good information because these are probably new terms to our listeners. I have heard these terms, but I still didn't quite understand them. So I really appreciate those descriptions.
Yeah.
It sounds like though you knew at a young age that the GI issues that you had were precursors to colorectal cancer.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot, but just hearing you tell your story, John, I mean, that was one of the, literally that night, I was not going to have the surgery I didn't. They were like, get your colon removed. They've been telling me for at least a year. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, I'm going to figure this out. It took me like, 8 more years to figure it out. Mm-hmm. But then I was like, really like, I'm going to fight for this and still be petrified and worried about getting cancer. I literally pictured in my head, I was like, you're going to be 40 years old. You're going to have spent 20 years fighting your brains out for your colon and you're going to get colon cancer. And I was like, not worth it. Let's do the surgery. So
let's talk a little bit before we circle back to symptoms, John. Let's talk a little bit about family history. John, family history. Any GI issues in your family history?
No GI issues that I am aware of, and that's why we were all so surprised. One, that I was diagnosed with UC, and then again with cancer years later.
Okay. So even like siblings, brothers, sisters, and then aunts and uncles. So not just dad. Everyone's fine.
Everything is okay. I do have a cousin that has UC as well.
Okay.
But other than that, no one.
Interesting. How about you, Tressa?
Not inflammatory bowel disease, diverticulitis, a lot of IBS. My family's pretty inflamed in general. It's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to study all of this, is I was like, I could see just this myriad of inflammatory symptoms and diseases. And, I was like, these things are probably connected. So, but yeah, a lot of IBS and a diverticulitis, but yeah, otherwise, no.
John, talk a little bit more about the symptoms you did not have. Did you know what symptoms to look for because of the ulcerative colitis? And you just didn't have them except for the flattening of the stool? Yeah,
well, what's funny, what Tressa had mentioned earlier about, if you grow up having IBD, you might have a flare or something like that where it's, blood in the stool, or you just don't feel right. And if you have, either Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, you're like, okay, I'll get over it. It'll be, a week long, and maybe it was something I ate. But where a regular person, if you're having that severe pain, that blood in the stool, then something's going on. So as I said, I was feeling really well. And surprised when I came out of the colonoscopy and the doctor said, hey, we found something, and it appears to be, it's a 5 centimeter 5-centimeter tumor, and it appears to be malignant.
Wow. Now, how often were you getting colonoscopies? Every year, every 3 years? How often?
So earlier when I was younger, I would get them every 3 years. I would get them as needed. If I didn't feel well and I thought something was going on, I would go in and have one. As I got older, it would be an annual colonoscopy. And every time, normally there were some polyps that were found that they would take, and they biopsy those polyps. But, you know, luckily for me, I was going in because I went in 2015 and there was no sign of a tumor at all. And then went in 2016, and that's when they found it.
That's when they found it. So tell me a little bit about the polyps that they've been finding. Is there a family history of polyps in your family?
Yeah, you know, I have 3 sisters. Okay. So obviously and I'm the youngest, when I was diagnosed with the cancer, obviously I called them and said, hey, it's time for you guys to get checked out as well. All 3 of them went in, they had their colonoscopies. A couple of them did have polyps, non-cancerous polyps. One was clean. So it's just something that they're going to continue to monitor and keep an eye on.
Yeah, because Christy C, she's a GI nurse manager at VCU. She's one of our founding board members. She always reminds me, she's like, Mindy, not all polyps are a cancer, but every cancer started with a polyp. So hence, this is why colonoscopy is so important, because not only can you, as a visual picture and video of your colon, if there is a polyp, it can be removed immediately while you're taking your little nap. So that's one reason why we want to make sure that we state all the time, folks need to be screened by age 50, not at age 50, that's the cutoff, by age 50, because if there's a family history or if there's any types of GI issues or symptoms, they need to speak up and talk to their doctor. And they most likely would need to be screened some way, shape, or form, screened prior to age 50. So this is why we're doing having this conversation. What do you want to tell young people? I mean, those folks that, I mean, literally under the age of 39, we're really seeing a sharp increase. But there's, again, these folks are getting diagnosed at the later stages, because the time of symptoms to the time of actually diagnosis, it's like 250 days. It's a long time. Now, we know colorectal cancer is a slow growing cancer, and you didn't really have many symptoms, but what are some things, can you guys share with some young people what's not to ignore?
Tressa, I'll let you go ahead.
I was going to let you go. I haven't had colon and cancer. And I've had serious IBD for a long time. So I would say don't ignore all of the stuff that I lived with for a very long time.
Well, and I guess,
very good point.
And I guess, Tressa, like for you, I would imagine that these folks, that there are so many young folks that are being diagnosed with IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease for folks, IBD, inflammatory bowel disease. And there's a bunch of different diseases that come underneath that, like Crohn's, diverticulitis, ulcerative colitis. Do you think that these patients at the young ages are being told that this is a risk for colorectal cancer? Do you think they're being told this information?
Well, I don't know. John said he didn't. I mean, certainly as a teen, they weren't telling me that. And just point of clarification, diverticulitis is not inflammatory bowel disease or autoimmune diseases. And so okay. It's mainly Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, but.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
But like you were, as you always say, Mindy, I mean, I think the main thing they're not being told that they need to be told is that the best prevention is diet and lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're definitely going to get to that for sure. John, what do you want to share to young people based on your experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I always say you just can never say never. Nobody's invincible. And if you're having symptoms, regardless of what they are, you're your own best judge. You know your body the best. And if you're having something that you're feeling just a little bit off, and it's not right, particularly pain, blood, flattening of the stool, like we had talked about, anything like that, go get checked out. Don't be stubborn. Don't say, it's going to pass. Go get checked out, because, you know, hopefully it's not anything, and hopefully it's just, you know, something you ate, but never say never. And a lot of people find out the hard way, unfortunately.
we talk a lot about chronic constipation, where people, and even the medical providers at times too, disregard that, but that is a precursor as well. That is a symptom of a GI issue that needs to be checked out. I think a lot of us don't understand that we need to eliminate every day. One of our founding board members, Dr. Melissa Hurt, she's a clinical restorative nutritionist, likes to say, you are what you don't eliminate. You know, we like to walk around saying, you know, you are what you eat. Okay, sure, because we need those nutrients. But you're also what you are, you become what you don't eliminate. We don't want to be a cesspool of toxins in our bodies. We need to be eliminating every day. So chronic constipation is a major issue that we're finding as we're out in the community. Tressa, let's move on to diet and lifestyle, because absolutely, with our Fight Right initiative, we talk about nourishment, movement, breath work for stress reduction, but all of these things are intertwined. It's all about bringing down inflammation and bringing oxygen and nutrients into the body, so the body can then eliminate the toxins. So tell us more about the changes that you made that's really helped you over decades.
Yeah, and also back what you were saying, I mean, constipation, so also people with chronic diarrhea, or alternating constipation, diarrhea. Some people think that having diarrhea means, oh, I'm getting cleaned out, but it's a state of inflammation, and that state of inflammation can still be proliferative. It can still promote cancer. So not to think that because you're having diarrhea that's like preventative or a good thing when it comes to colon cancer either. It's a sign of inflammation. But yeah, so as far as nutrition, I think that's probably foundationally one of the most important things. Of course, not smoking, not excessive drinking. Those sometimes I forget to mention because I just think they're already understood. But those are the huge risk factors. And then on top of that, I really believe in keeping it simple. As Michael Pollan said, eat real food, mostly plants. I usually start my patients out on a paleo, what I call paleo template way of eating. I don't like a lot of dogma and obsessive eating habits, but just think about, you know, eating tons of plants, bringing in healthy, organic, free-range, local animal products, because they can have a lot of the minerals and nutrients that you really need. And then, you know, eating slowly, paying attention to what you're eating, not gulping it down. So yeah, and then everything else on top of that, as far as adequate sleep, stress management, and exercise. Exercise is a huge, it shows really, really significant decreases in colorectal cancers and most all cancers. And so we're always looking for the next big pharmaceutical, or even, you know, of course, I love doing all my functional medicine work and all my labs. But what I tell people is there is no functional medicine protocol, there is no pharmaceutical that can replace the basic lifestyle habits. So start with that, and then we can build on that. So,
right. No, that's fantastic information. We talk a lot about eating foods that help to heal and seal the gut, because we know leaky gut is also a major issue now out in our public and our population. And so we love coconut oil. Coconut oil is in our healing belly basket. Obviously, that's a good fat, and there's all kinds of other great fats out there. I think people are afraid of fat. Can you just briefly describe why good quality fat's really important, especially for the gut lining?
Yeah, absolutely. So coconut oil actually has monolaurin in it, which we use to help keep bad microbial populations down. It has some antiviral properties, some antifungal properties. It can help regulate and modulate inflammation in the gut. And in general, we became kind of scared of fats because fats were coming from processed food in our diet. But if you take the processed out and you keep the healthy omega-3 fats, and then coconut, which is a mix of the O3, 6, and 9s in your diet, those are very helpful. Like our entire cells, our membranes are all lipids. They're all fat. We need healthy fats to make healthy cell membranes so our cells can receive all of the messages and communicate them clearly. Our hormones, our skin, we need all of the good fat for all of those things. But it's not good fat and processed in sugar and flours. It's good fat within the context of a healthy diet. Sometimes people get a little obsessed with all the bacon and cheese and the keto ideas. That's not what we're talking about. So
yeah, good clarification there. John, I know you had to modify your diet as well. What successes have you had?
Yeah, so I am, as I mentioned before, I'm 3 years cancer free, and I'm 2 years out on the formation of my J pouch. And obviously the biggest modification is you know, eating less at one sitting, because I do have that smaller holding tank, and it gets filled up pretty quick. And I'm still, you know, to be honest, I'm still experimenting with different foods. It's funny, just like, I think just like irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, colon cancer, we're all different. So it all affects us a little differently depending what it is. Some people can eat dairy, some people can't eat dairy. Some people are lactose intolerant, some people are. So I struggle a little bit with dairy. Sugars are, and I got a big sweet tooth. I'll tell you, I got a big sweet tooth, and sugars, they just aggravate me to death. So I try and stay away from those as much as I can. I get the sugar-free cookies now, so I can satisfy that. But yeah, just try and stay as balanced as I possibly can is what I'm doing, and still experimenting with different types of foods. It's because I don't per se have a colon, that my digestive tract is much shorter than everyone else's. So there's a lot of foods that don't digest very well, and it's just kind of a trial and error.
Right. You know, something that you said that reminded me of what Tressa said, and digestion starts in the mouth. So what Tressa was saying was slow down your eating and actually chew your food so it can begin to digest in the mouth before you swallow. Kind of give the liver, give the liver a little bit of a break, the pancreas a little bit of a break. And it sounds like, that's kind of what you're trying to do too, is kind of just slow down. You got to eat smaller food, a smaller amount of food. So kind of just slowing down. And maybe enjoying your food maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still learning that, but Tressa had mentioned too about blockages also, and I've had a couple blockages. Unfortunately, they're super painful, and you end up going to the ER, and it's just not a pleasant experience. There's only a few ways to clear those blockages when you're at the ER. It's either an NG tube, which goes in your nose and down. So it's just so important to enjoy your food, like you're saying. Chew, try and stay away from things that might that you have trouble digesting, and that might cause a blockage.
Yeah. Tressa, why don't you tell everybody how to find you? Because you run a business now. I mean, you've made a whole life, not only a lifestyle, but a business out of helping people, and you're very successful. How can people find you?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And may I just mention one other thing about food? Is that okay? When a lot of people, when they go to their GIs and they either have inflammatory bowel disease or are recovering from surgery, their doctor tells them to eat a low residue diet, a soft diet. And so they're like, eat ice cream, eat cream of wheat, eat, milkshakes. And I'm just always like, ooh, that would put me in the hospital in a week. I just want to sort of emphasize that you can do a soft diet, you can do a low residue diet that is still whole foods based, and not all of the junk food that you'll hear for them to recommend. Soups, stews, you can even then blend them and get all the nutrition you need. Even if it's like a cream of rice or a protein smoothie made out of actual real food, you can put a little coconut oil, a little almond butter, a healthy scoop of some type of plant protein or even whey protein if you do that. So please don't, when you're inflamed, when you're recovering from surgery and they tell you to eat a low residue diet, don't take that to mean that you need to eat a processed food diet. So anyway, it's
extremely important. And we're big fans of bone broth. Absolutely. Yeah, bone broth with a big old heaping spoonful of coconut oil. You got a good quality protein, a good quality fat, just if you're just needing something to digest easily, and but you still need the nourishment. So where can people find you, Tressa?
Yeah, In Health RVA, so IN Health RVA as in Richmond, Virginia.com. That's the website. The phone number is 804-288-1111. I do free consultations for anyone who has questions or wants to discuss their case with me. If they aren't ready to become a patient, maybe I can at least give them some direction and some food for thought, some things like don't eat junk food after inflammatory bowel disease or surgery. So yeah, and like you said, it's not just that I'm a patient or that I do it for business. I mean, this is my calling. Is when I was young, I did not want people to have to live what I had to live through. And I knew there was a better way. So there are better ways. There are answers out there that will allow you to be free of pain and suffering and avoid colon cancer or recover better from colon cancer.
Yeah.
So just know that.
Yeah. and live a very, very active lifestyle. Again, I mean, I've seen you run, and you're a phenomenal runner. And you're still running, and that's fantastic. And then John, where can people find you? You're a lead singer of What's on Tap. So obviously everything you've been through is not slowing you down in regards to, busting out your songs with your guitar and all that. So I've seen it, and it's wonderful. So where are you playing next?
Yeah, well, we have a couple private gigs coming up, Halloween gigs, things like that. But with the name like What's on Tap, we do play a lot of breweries. So you can find us at your favorite local brewery more than likely. Yeah. But if you want to take a look on Facebook, we have a Facebook page, whatsontapband.com, and we have our schedule there. So come out and see us. I'd love to talk more about band stuff, music stuff, and anything colorectal or anything you want to talk about.
Well, I know that, Tressa, you've done a podcast for us in the past. So for other folks that want to hear more from Tressa, you can just go ahead and click on one of the episodes on our website, HCB2.org. And I know, John, I'm hoping you'll be back at the Boxer Brief 5K in June 2021. So, yeah, you'll be jamming with us on, after this hopefully post-COVID.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Is there as we wrap this up, is there any other final thoughts that you'd like to share? We kind of went through this rather quickly.
I said earlier, just never say never. You can never know. Go get yourself checked out if you are feeling anything that's just a little off, and be your own advocate and do your own research as well.
Yeah. And what about you, Tressa?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. You really do have to be your own advocate. There are other options out there. You have to search for them. You have to bring them to your clinicians. And then you have to make sure that you're taking responsibility in doing it yourself. I think the only other thing I would say is for those who do end up with an ostomy, ileostomy or colostomy, excuse me, I can't even say it. I mean, it's literally, it's not held me back with anything. I'm going to yoga after this, twists. I run, shorts and a sports bra in the summer, swing jumping off into the river, camping trips, salsa dancing. So there's literally no limits. Don't worry about it. Once you have it, everyone I know on all the ostomy groups I'm on, once you do have it, you don't even think about it anymore. Certainly there'll probably be a little bit of a transition period, but it's fine. It's great. Don't worry about it and live your life to the fullest.
Fantastic. This has been a very special podcast. I really appreciate your all's time.
Thank you.
All right. For everybody listening, thank you, and continue to fight right. Till next time, take care.
Thanks for your good work, Mindy.
Thank you.
Bye.